Yo, what is going on, everyone? Welcome back to another video from The Sports Scoop. Today we are doing our sit start for week 12 of fantasy football. We alter off each week of doing waiver wire ads and sit start. If you want to see some of our waiver wire ads, since we won't be posting a video on that today, you can go over to our Instagram, linked in the description down below. We will post, we post players that we think start, interactive content over there. So make sure to go check that out. Drop us a follow, get us to 1,000 followers. No, I'm not a Saints fan. This is just a hat I got for Christmas, I'm pretty sure. So, yeah, I'm not a Saints fan. I'm a Giants fan. Let's get into our starts for Week 12 of fantasy. Player number 1, pains me to say it, but Mike Davis. I have CMC as a fantasy owner. He's looking doubtful. I don't think he's going to play this week. And Mike Davis is a start. Great matchup against the Minnesota Vikings. As I said, CMC is doubtful, so Mike Davis takes over that backfield. This Minnesota defense is not good. I think there's a lot of production for him to have here. Last week he saw 19 touches against a poor Lions defense, which is very, very good and leaves room for a lot of production, touchdowns, all of that. Playing against this Minnesota defense, I think he's a high chance of a touchdown, and I think he has a lot of potential for a lot of yards. We could see as well 2 to 4 receptions, which, that's 4 points there, which is really good in terms of PPR. He's a good power back, and has chances to just, pound, and he could be getting a lot of touches, a lot of room for production. I think he get a lot of yards against his bad Minnesota defense. Start Mike Davis. I think he's a flex RB2. I think RB2 and a very, very high-end flex. So start Mike Davis. JD McKissic. He was a waiver wire ad last week. I traded for him this week, and he was okay. He had 10 last week, 9.9. But I love his matchup. Again, matchups really important, obviously, with starts. Playing the Cowboys, not a good defense. Again, just another injury-ridden defense. He's just incredible PPR back, one of the best PPR backs that you can find. He's a second back there, but gets a lot of receptions, which is incredible. And on the high end, he has the potential of 7 to 9 catches per game and 60 yards, which already 10 plus points, which is really good, especially for him. He's more of a flex option, and even that, he's seeing 6 to 8 rushing attempts per game on a high end, which is really, really good. The problem is he's not very trustworthy to get a touchdown, but I still like his production. He's projected 13. I say he gets around there, maybe a bit over, and he has a good floor. 9.9 points. Obviously, that's not great. It's not terrible. His floor isn't that bad, and he has a high ceiling, assuming he gets, he could get 10 receptions and a touchdown, and that would be incredible for him. Add yards onto that, add rushing attempts. You could look at a big game against the Cowboys, and as well, Antonio Gibson, start him if he's on your team. Justin Jefferson, the rookie receiver, looking probably like the best receiver, taking that crown away from CeeDee Lamb, and he just has a lot of high percentage for big down the field plays, 50-yard throws, 40-yard throws. The only problem I would say is that last game he had 3 receptions for 83 yards and a touchdown against the Cowboys. So, if you're 3 receptions, it's not always guaranteed you're getting 83 yards or even 60. So you just want to make sure you're starting him. I think he has a very high ceiling, though. As you see, he's gotten 2 30-point games, and I think when he is good, when Kirk Cousins is trusting him, which he's trusting him more and more, he has potential of 7 to 9 catches a game, which is really good. He's averaging 20 points per game, I believe, in his last couple games. He's an incredible route runner. 20 points per game in his last 2 games. He's an incredible route runner. Has fully gained the trust of Kirk Cousins. And his floor is okay. I think his floor is pretty good. I don't think that's something you should be worried about as a fantasy owner. Justin Jefferson, I think he's now an established wide receiver too. Definitely high-end flex option. Go start him this week. Let's get on to our last start, Sterling Shepard. And generally, Giants receivers obviously are very iffy, especially with Daniel Jones, a quarterback. I'm a Giants fan. But Sterling Shepard has been very, very, very consistent, something that is incredible and something you want to start in your fantasy team. A big part of why I like Sterling Shepard is he's playing against the Bengals. Obviously, prayers up to Joe Burrow. Terrible knee injury. So they're starting a second-string quarterback. This Giants defense is getting a lot better. They might have Xavier McKinney back. They could get a lot of turnovers. That's giving the ball to this offense more. And I think Sterling Shepard is now Daniel Jones' favorite target. I think he's just outplayed Darius Slayton. And this Cincinnati Bengals have the 24th ranked defense against wide receivers. That's a really good matchup matchup for Sterling Shepard, who still is pretty consistent against mid to high tier defenses. He has had at least 6 receptions in his last 4 games, and on the high end of 8, and even more than 8. And he has at least 10 points since back from injury, which is incredible. 10.7 was his lowest scoring game, which is very, very good. That's consistency. You want to start him, and I'm assuming he will continue that, if not break 10 plus points. And he has a high chance of 20 plus points with a touchdown, assuming he's getting 6 to 8 receptions, maybe even 9, 7 around there, and a touchdown, maybe looking at 60 yards. I love Sterling Shepard here. I think he's just a really good, solid receiver. Run him. I'd say he's a high-end flex, low-end wide receiver 2 option. Let's get into our sits. Number 1, and I mean, thank God I traded him, drafted him in the 2nd round. Was not worth that pick. Lamar Jackson, again and again, just not proving to be where he was drafted. Hasn't gotten 20 plus points consistently, which he was getting last year. Literally playing the worst possible team as a quarterback, even as an offense for the Ravens, just playing the worst possible team in the Pittsburgh Steelers. Number 2 ranked in fantasy, and at least in ESPN, they're definitely the best defense in the league. I don't think that's arguable. And they're averaging at least 1 turnover per game. And for Lamar in the last matchup, he had 4 turnovers, 2 interceptions, 2 fumbles. I had him. He still got 14 points, which is, not bad, but you need more out of a quarterback that's drafted that high. As I said, he's been playing bad. And he had 16 attempts rushing on only 65 yards versus Pittsburgh, and I'm assuming held to even less. And he has a turnover in his last 2 games. I don't like the matchup here. He had 2 touchdowns last time, just above 200 yards, but that's not given against his Pittsburgh defense, and I think a turnover is likely, if not guaranteed. So Lamar Jackson, sit him. I think there's definitely some good waiver wire quarterbacks, and DM us or comment who you should pick up if you have Lamar Jackson. But sit Lamar Jackson for this week. I don't like the matchup. But this week, I don't like the matchup for Brandon Aiyuk, the wide receiver from the San Francisco 49ers, against the Los Angeles Rams. And normally he is a start. I'll tell you that. Normally he's a flex start. He's very, very consistent. And he's getting touchdowns. He's getting a lot of receptions. But he's playing with a second-string quarterback, and it's just a problem. A lot of these, wide receiver, running back, or mainly wide receiver, quarterback, if you don't have your starting quarterback, it affects your fantasy value drastically. Playing against a very, very good Rams secondary. Maybe could be shadowed by Jalen Ramsey. Even then, they have a very good secondary. Pressure will be getting on Mullins, so he might not have as much time to throw the ball. Deebo Samuel is back. They're very, very good wide receiver. He'll definitely be taking away targets, probably become that number 1 receiver. And I'm seeing Aiyuk to get sub 5 receptions. I don't see him getting a touchdown either. But this one, I could be wrong. This one's a bit of a risky one. I think he could have a really good game, as he had a good game against the Rams last time. I just don't see it this time without Garoppolo back there. So sit Brandon Aiyuk this week. I think there's definitely better options on the waiver wire for that flex option. And, of course, you guys can always DM us. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, been very good, been a very good rookie. But he had 2 touchdowns last game. I don't expect one this game. I don't think he'll keep up that touchdown streak. Only has 4 touchdowns on the year. Had a massive gap without touchdowns, which is concerning, especially out of a running back that, is on that high-powered offense. Playing a very good defense who hasn't been performing that well, but I think against the run, at least against the Chiefs, I think they're still very solid in the Buccaneers. And without touchdowns, he's getting sub 16 points. And I know that sounds good, it's not that bad, but 16 points is good when he's not getting a touchdown. Without that, he's getting 11, 10. And as a RB1, possibly RB2, depending on the amount of men in your league, it's just I don't see how you could start him against his Bucs defense. And especially with Le'Veon Bell taking the majority of the receptions back there, especially with Sammy Watkins back, there's just not enough to give to Helaire. You want to bench him here, and I think there's definitely better options. Next, and our last player, our last sit of the week, A.J. Brown. I love A.J. Brown. I think he's an incredible receiver, top 25 receiver, but he just has a terrible matchup against the Colts defense. Overall, as an offense, the Titans played terribly against the Colts. He was held to 3.1 points, 1 reception for, I believe, 21 yards. 21 yards. As well, Corey Davis has been emerging as a much more consistent reception, steady wide receiver. So he's taking away receptions. And as well, Derrick Henry just the beast of a running back, just takes away all of the red zone shares. So A.J. Brown isn't looking at, red zone touchdown. And even then, Jonnu Smith has had 2 touchdowns, I believe, in the last 2 games off red zone plays. So I just don't like, the players that are on the Titans that take away points, as well as the matchup against this really good Colts defense. As well, this offensive line by the Titans, I believe their second string tackle, Sambrialo, was just placed on IR. So Tannehill could be getting a lot of pressure from this very, very good Buccaneers defensive line and their linebacking core. I just don't like the matchup. I think A.J. Brown is generally a wide receiver 2 flex option. I don't like him this week. Bench him. I think that there's a lot better players. So sit him this week. But thank you guys so much for watching. If you did enjoy, make sure to like and subscribe. We love giving you guys fantasy advice. Make sure to go check out our Week 12 NFL predictions. Comment down below. We say every time, if you want waiver wire pickup, sit, start, any more players you want us to know, we will give you advice, not just only on these players, but anyone you think sit, start. Give us the players, 3 players. Tell us to start 2 of them, and we'll give you advice. We always respond to comments. It's really important to us, so if you guys want to go comment, it means a lot to us, and we will promise to respond. If you don't want to put it in public, social will be on the side of me here as well, linked in the description down below. Our Instagram, our TikTok, as well as our podcast. You can DM us on Instagram, _sports_scoop. We respond to all DMs there. We get a lot, but we generally respond to all of them as well. We have more fantasy advice there, more variation of it, so definitely go follow us down there. If you saw our last video, you saw Surge wish you a happy Thanksgiving. I want to wish you guys that also. Hope you all have a safe, happy Thanksgiving, a lot of food, and definitely some amazing football game. Have a safe Thanksgiving. We will see you in the next one.